Okay, welcome back. We are working on a piece of Reb Chaim Halevi, Chaim Halevi Soloveitchik, arguably the greatest Rosh Hashiva of the last 100 years. And we're working on his piece. He has one on Hilchos Mila, which means we're going to focus on the Rambam. We're going to work on one idea in the Rambam. We're working on the mitzvah of Mila. So we have to have in mind one idea before we start. The parsha of Mila comes in Chumash Bereshis. It's discussed quite at length. It's a mitzvah given to Avram Avinu, and this mitzvah given to Avram Avinu in Parashat Bereshis, Avram Avinu gets a Mila, Yitzchak, his son, gets a Mila at 8 days old, Yishmael gets a Mila, presumably Eliezer gets a Mila. It says explicitly in the pasuk, slaves get a Mila. There's lots of discussion in Chumash Bereshis. Then in Chumash Vayikra, in Parashat Tazria, there's a very cursory note. The Torah says there that a very simple idea. The Torah says on the 8th day, if he's a boy, he gets a Mila. So we have this very quiet, very short note on in Vayikra. So we have to know, what do we get extra in Chumash Vayikra? What are we learning over there? Why does the Torah repeat itself? And we got all the action was in Bereshis. What's it mean? So with no further ado, let's go to work. So the Rambam, we're starting with the Rambam. The Rambam is Hilchos Mila. It's in Sefer Ava, the book of love, one of the 14 books of the Yad Chazaka. So he says, "Kashem shemilas abonim doches hashabbos, kach milas avodim shem nimulim lishmona doches hashabbos." So the Rambam says, just like a regular Mila of one's children is doches Shabbos, so too Mila of one's slaves. Slave here, we're talking about Eved Kanani, a non-Jewish person. Let's pick on Mr. Clinton. Decides they need some income stream. So he goes to Jew and says, I would like to sell myself as a slave for $1. So then you buy him as a slave, and you have to give him a bris milah, and you have to give him mikvah to make him into an Evet Kanani, and then he's an Evet Kanani. That's what a slave is. Now, he could be that way, could stay in the family generations upon generations. There's slavery in the Torah. This is not so PC, but this is reality. So too, the mitzvah of Mila of one's slaves, when the Rambam says they have a Mila on their 8th day, then it's Docha Shabbos. So we see there's a concept, Mila Docha Shabbos. Mila Docha Shabbos for Mila of one's children, Mila Docha Shabbos for one's slaves, when the slaves have their Mila on the 8th day. Okay? In Chalshmin Shabbos, Chutz, Miyalid Bayis Shalot Tabla Imad Shiyalda. There's an exception to the rule. Now, the Torah describes slaves that have a Mila. The Torah uses a phrase, Yalid bias. Lead bias means he's born in the house. So who's born in the house? We're talking about pre-hospital time. Everybody's born in the house. Where else are you going to be born? You're going to be born outside? Very unusual. Everybody's born in the house. But Yalid bias means he's already a slave, and he's born into slavery. That's what we're talking about. That's a Yalid bias. So the Rambam says there's a Yalid bias shalot tavla imo, that his mother never went to mikvah. What's that mean? His mother is a slave lady. So we'll pick on the Clintons again, because we want to be not PC. We should just push our luck. So Mrs. Clinton's not really busy right now, and she needs some income stream. So she sells herself for $1 to be a slave to a Jewish person. So then the halacha is that she's not shaykh to Mila. She does go to mikvah one time, and she becomes a slave for the rest of her life. And her children that are born, they're born into slavery. That's what we're talking about. Now, what happens if somebody's born before his mother went to mikvah? We had the same story. He was bought. Some Jew bought a slave, and before the mother went to mikvah to become a full slave, what happened? It was too late. She already had her child. That's what we're talking about. In such case, says the Rambam, in such a case, he does that slave get his meal on the 8th day, ain't it doches Shabbos. He's the exception to the rule, and he doesn't get a Mila on the 8th. He gets a Mila on the 8th day, but not on Shabbos. On Shabbos, the 8th day, you have to wait. That's the Rambam. We did the Rambam. Uba Sogas Zal. The Ravid has a comment here. The Ravid is the one who has standard comment all the time on the Rambam. And when he says nothing, it means he agrees. And when he disagrees, he normally lets us know. So let's see what the Ravid says over here. It says, Lo yadati ma'ozeh hefresh. Why is there an exception to the rule here? Maybe the Rambam doesn't know what the halacha is. He's afraid that maybe the halacha is like Rebbe Chama. We'll have to see who this Rebbe Chama is. And therefore, therefore, he's machmir and says you cannot be machal Shabbos for the Mila of this person whose mother didn't ever go to mikveh the first time yet. Before he was born, you lead bias, even though he is a slave. And that's going to be an answer to Rambam. He thinks the Rambam has some doubt over here. That's the Ravid's comment. We're going to come back to the Ravid. Okay. Where is he coming from? The Bishabas Tav Kuf Lamed Hey. The Gemara says, Isa Amre Basi Kol Shimo Tmei Aleda Nimo Lishmo Koshena Imo Tmei Aleda Eino Nimo Shmo. Shenemar Isha Kizu Vialda Zach Vitama Ubiyama Shvini Yumo Basar Lasso. So we have a statement here. Didn't have Rabbi Ham that we were promised, and it starts off saying that when do you have Mila on the 8th day? But and only if the mother has tumas leda. Now, there's lots of different tumas in the Torah. There's tumas nida, tumas zavan, tumas nevela, and tumas mace. And one of the tumas is tumas leda. Every time that a Jewish lady or a lady who's a slave, girl, shiv kananis, gives birth, then she has a special tumah. It's called tumas leda. When that happens, then you have the din of the 8th day. That's what the Gemara says. Why? Because that pasuk in Vayikra, that pasuk in Parshas Tazria, it says, and the mother becomes Tameh, and then there's Mila on the 8th day. That's what the Gemara starts off with. Okay. Amy, the Gemara says, what's going on? That doesn't seem to make too much sense. So we have a different case where there's a machlokas samurai. What happens with Yotzei Dolphin? He wasn't born regularly. He was born cesarean section. Or, what's our other case? Shtei arelis. Normally there's just one orla, and this guy has two. So what do you do about that? In such cases, yes, Machal Shabbos or no Machal Shabbos, a question. So the Gemara says, everybody holds 8th day is the Mila. Why would you think 8th day is not the Mila? What's this thing that the Gemara says that you only have 8th day when there's Tumas Leda? Answers the Gemara, Hava Talia. What's on the Chil Shabbos B'Shmini Talia? This, that there's Chil Shabbos and that's 8th day, are codependent on each other. Okay, now about Talia. Zeo, Chase the Ravid. Came in the Nemo Shmoni, Kane, a Maino Dochas Shabbos. This is the Ravid's question in the Rambam. We don't find anybody in the world who has, this Gemara teaches us, that has a meal on the 8th day, and you don't do it on Cheshvan Shabbos. You always do against Shabbos. Every single case. Elder Shambas Sugya Kitanoi. Gemara says this actually is a machlokas tanayim. Yeshli ba'ashanim alechad, yeshli ba'ashanim alashmona. There are two types of slaves. One type of slave doesn't have an 8th day. He has day 1 Mila. Now, we're not used to this. Very unusual case. Chumash Breish thought everything was the 8th day. And Chumash Vayikra, we thought everything is the 8th day. We're going to see very carefully there's somebody that doesn't have the 8th day. Watch carefully. Person buys a shifra and then she gets pregnant by the Jewish owner. So then that slave that's born, he has a meal on the 8th day. Rabbi Chama says, this is the name you're looking for, that in what case? Yolda v'chakach bila. A guy bought a slave, and before he got a chance to take her mikvah, it was Corona. I don't know why. She just never made it to the mikvah. He bought her as a slave and didn't get around to doing it. And then she has a child. So then he has his meal right away on the first day. He'd be the v'chakach yolda. If the regular case, she had mikvah first, Zeli advice an imo shmona. But Tanakama lo shoni le bein yibila v'chakach yolda bein yolda v'chakach yibila is actually a machlokas on this. They have the animo to me later nimo shmona. Yes, Tanakama holds, who cares whether the mother is fully Jewish or not? Really, the din of Eva Kanani, of the Shif Kananis, is she's fully Jewish. She has to keep kosher. She has to keep Shabbos. She has almost all the halachas of a regular lady, except she's not able to get married because she's a slave lady. That's basically her only difference. So, who cares whether she has tumas later or not? Nimo l'shmona. So it's just I'm arriving the Rambam misapkalein Allah kabichamo karabonim. This is the Ravid's comment on the Rambam, that the Ravid explaining the Rambam doesn't know what the halach is. Like Rabbi Chama says, the mother needs to have tumas later in order to have a Mila Shmona or not. So therefore the Rambam, by not knowing, says the Chumrah both ways. Mimo Lishmona, wait to the 8th day for the Mila, maybe that's the halacha. Beina Docha Shabbos, don't do it in Cheshvan Shabbos because maybe that's the halacha. But in principle, he agrees with the rule. There is no one in the world that you could separate the two, that both the 8th day and pushing off Shabbos go together. If your meal is 8th day, it always pushes off Shabbos. This is now we explain the Rambam according to the explanation that the Raiva gives. Now we're going to say more. Step 2 in the Rambam. V'hein yesh lom v'das Rambam s'vilei davrav de'ikar din Mila shmini v'tchiyah Shabbos tlim b'zeh v'kol shanim lo shmona docha Shabbos. Though we start off like the Ravid led us to believe, mikol makom hachib li b'ayah shalot tav le'imo ad acher leida lo dochi Shabbos. Maybe the Rambam is saying this is a special case which is different. Why? Umeshum de me'emes harei avlad ad shelo tova harei hu nachri. In this case, what happened? You bought this slave lady, so you own her in money issues, but in Isser issues, to make her the full yid that has to keep kosher, has to keep Shabbos, you need to bring her a mikveh, and you just didn't do that. So if you haven't done that yet, it's just a non-Jewish person, this mother. The kol din chovas Mila sheish l'rabalov hu betziruv as the yipol ma the yipol achakach v'yalchu be'geirus ta'avdus. The only reason you're going to have to do a Mila here on this child is because later he's going to become, there's going to be a Tvila. But if there's never going to be a Tvila later, it's just a non-Jewish person, there's no reason to do Mila at all. So for sure, the Rambam's right. Why should this push off Shabbos? There's no din Mila here yet. Even if you're going to say that, yes, wait to the 8th day. Why? Because he's about to become a slave of a Ein Zeh Moel Inyan Techiyas Shabbos. 8th day and Techiyas Shabbos are not exactly the same. We need that his Mila happens at its time, meaning there's a halacha already without waiting for the Tvila. The Shabbos al Aribistral. The Zevare Shmini with Techiyas Shabbos Haba Italian. The Suya wasn't talking about this case. This Li Bias, he's a different person. Now that we've learned this way, we go back to what we said in Arrive, and then we're going to have to understand. That according to the Shitas Rabbanin, the Tana that holds against Rabbi Chama, he says that this Li Bias, even though his mother never went to mikveh yet, he has meal on the 8th day. Hooray, Mila so docha Shabbos, and his meal is docha Shabbos. Ve'eich yuchol yos came. How could that be? Came with the Kati Nachrihu. He's still not Jewish. But the Hugmer old Chalo Shein Mila Shabbat. It's not even a Mila yet, even after you're done, because he needs the mikvah. But near the Arrive, it's really Kedas Ramban. This Arrive is based on a different Ramban we have. The rule is you're not a ger until you do 2 steps, Mila and Tvila, and that's the way of doing it. You do Mila first, you wait till the person gets better, and then you do Tvila. Mila. So the Ramban holds you could do it the other way also. You could go either way. So the what happens if they did it the other way around? And he did go to mikveh first, this child. To be also nigmar kol geruso. Now the mila is done. And that's the only case the Ravid argues. Now he was very sussum that's what the Ravid meant. He didn't tell me he was talking about an unusual case, but it's possible that's what the Ravid means. And we could say that if we say the Ravid holds like the Ramban, that it doesn't matter the Seder, and you could do first Tvila and then Mila, or you could do first Mila and then Tvila. So then we say that the Rambam who argues holds like Tosfos, not like the Ramban. And you always must do this Seder of Mila first and then Tvila. You may not jump Seder and do Tvila first. That could be. So therefore you can't have it happening at the time of Mila. That's possible that's part of the machlokas between the Ravid and the Rambam, is that issue, the machlokas between the Ramban and Tosfos. Venira Ot, plan 3 in understanding this Rambam. Da'afilu heicha d'milaso nishlam eskeruso gamkin shlomo das Rambam he dolo dochi Shabbos. Maybe the Rambam could agree with the Ramban, and still you're not dochi Shabbos. Why? Why should that be? Umeshum, the reason is the Had Mila Doch Shabbos Hu Machem is Din Mila Shebegufo. Why is Mila Doch Shabbos? Because you have an obligation to do a Mila. Mashkin was that daimo hu nachri the chobos Mila shebo machmas HaRav shemichuv lomo yelid beso miknas kaspo. But this, in the case of the slave, even though he's owned, since even if he finishes his geiris now, and his geiris is finished with the Mila, I mean, we're working with the Ramban, he had a tefillah first, still, he didn't have an obligation to have the Mila yet. He only becomes Jewish with the Mila. In the case where the person itself does not have an obligation to go to the Mila, even though the master has obligation to put a slave to that Mila, but the Eved himself doesn't, because he's not yet Metzuva, because he never went through the whole process, even if he had Tefillah first, which works, but since he didn't have the Mila, which finishes off and makes him into an Eved, so he doesn't have his own obligation. Even though it's going to happen simultaneously with this Mila itself. This is like any non-Jew who wants to become Jewish. His Mila is not Docha Shabbos because there's no din to have a Mila. This is their machlokas. That's a Ravid he the Kol Shchalav Chavashmini Dochi Shabbos Gamba Mila Shal Geiris. The Ravid holds if you do on the 8th day because there's such a din on the owner to do on the 8th day, and that's why it's Docha Shabbos, even if it's a Mila of Geiris. That's a Rambam to lo Dochi Shabbos Kim Heicha Shechalav Chavas Mila Begufo Mikodim Velo Mila Shal Geiris Kati Nachihu. Has to be not only there's an obligation of the owner to do the Mila, but there has to be an obligation of the Eved himself to have this Mila, which doesn't happen in a case where his mother didn't go first to mikvah before he was born, and therefore he needs to go to mikvah. And even though he did go to mikvah, he doesn't fully become the Eved until he has this Mila as well. That's a Rambam Kaditzarchian. We have a separate question. Possibly come and Balach Yedale, if the Gam Yotzi Dov Mishal Shterelis Avadanim Moshman Mikolom Nochi Davi Shabbos. Rambam had two other examples. The person who was born with two arelas and the person who was born with cesarean section. These people have the Mila on the 8th day, and it's also not Docha Shabbos. If we said the principle is always by Jewish people, it goes together the 8th day and then Tchiyah Shabbos, pushing up Shabbos with a Mila. Why by these two examples does it not go together? Maybe Sugi Shabbos and Vur the Hava tell you, but near the Gam Masars arrived he al Yotzi Dofen. Maybe that's the Ravid's question himself. That's what the Ravid means. And he says that he would agree with the Rambam that you leave bias when the mother didn't go to mikveh, you cannot be Docha Shabbos. Because the Gemara holds they have a machlokas as well in the case of cesarean section. That's what he's arguing the Rambam, that he should discuss further the din of cesarean section, which the Rambam does not do. So to explain the Rambam, the Gemara starts off an opinion that says you have to have the pasuk in Vayikra and Parshas Tazria that says that the mother must be tamei, and then you have an obligation the 8th day. Amalei Abaye, we missed out some of the Gemara. Now we're going to give us more Gemara. Abaye says, Abaye says, wait a second. Very hard for me to buy on to that halacha. Why? Because we have an earlier parsha in the Torah. We didn't get Tuma until much later in the Torah, until Har Sinai, till Parshas Yisro and Shmos. But before Har Sinai, from Chumash Bereshis at the end, there is a mitzvah of Mila. Avram has a Mila, Yitzchak has a Mila, Shmuel has a Mila, presumably Eliezer has a Mila. All these characters have a Mila, meaning Yaakov has a Mila, Esav has a Mila, Yaakov's 12 sons have a Mila. All this happens before we get to Parshas Yisro. So all those are cases where their mother didn't have Tumas later, because the Torah is only Mechadesh Tumah after the Torah in Parshas Yisro. So you see that the two issues are not related, says Abaye. That you can have Mila Lishmona, which it says explicitly in Chumash Bereshis, which says Yitzchak Avinu had his Mila on the 8th day, and it's not dependent on the mother being Tamei Leda. This seems to be a pretty good question. Amarlei, so Ravasi answers back, Nitna Torah is Chad Shalacha. You're right for that interim period from the time when Chumash Bereshis happens till the time the Parshas Shmos, Chumash Shmos, Parshas Yisro, when the Torah is given, that there is this gap and there is no requirement of Tumas later. However, but from then, when in Parshas Yisro the Torah is given, when Parshas Tazria is really said effectively to Klal Yisrael, and now there is Tumas later, now from that point, you need to have Tumas later in order to have a din of Mila on Shmini. To To explain this, there's two possibilities. Oh, the Bayim Achivi Dor Shon the Shemaim the Enemy Shmini totally, but Tumas Leida V'Lo Der Shni Smuchen V'Tuma Shivas Yamin B'Yom Shmini Yimo. Abayi says, how can you make a drasha in Chumash V'Yikra? It can't be right because we see there's generations prior to the Torah and they have an 8th day of Mila and they don't have a concept of Tumas Leida, so don't give me a drasha at all. Maybe that's Abayi's question. That could be. Kol she'ena b'chlav tama, ena b'chlav yom shmini imo. V'ad parak tori shoni mechicho hu meshum das hars mila b'shmini are nemra v'nishnes. This is because the idea of the 8th day is repeated. It's said once in Chumash Bereishis prior to the giving Torah. It's said again 8th day in Chumash Vayikra after the giving the Torah. So now this is a new halacha, and so it's nemra v'am nishna Moshe b'kra di shakitas riya das hars are from the kol nemra gam b'nei Torah. So now, wait a second. The Azhara of Avraham Avinu was said even to B'nai Keturah. If you remember, Chumash Bereishis, what happens? Avraham Avinu gets Mila, he's mal everybody. He's mal Yitzchak, he's mal Yishmael, he's mal himself. He's presumably mal Eliezer, his slave as well. And then later, it says explicitly in the Torah, later, Sarah Ameno dies, Avraham Avinu remarries Keturah. Rashi says Keturah is Hagar. I don't really care what her identity is. There's some lady who the Torah calls Keturah, and this lady marries Avram, and there's more children. There's more children there. The Torah gives a list of more children than Avram Avinu has. Now, these more children presumably are shaykh to the din Mila. In fact, the Rambam paskins that way. Rambam paskins that B'nai Keturah have an obligation of Mila. Now, these B'nai Keturah are not Jewish people. They're not sticking around with the preferred Zerah of Yitzchak and Yaakov and his children, but they are children of Ram and they do have Mila. Mashkena as Moshe Nemra Rakli Yisrael Levad. But our Parshas of Vayikra is only to Jewish people. The Din Shmona Nemar B'Shneim. The 8th day is said by both. Ksi B'Krav Ben Shmonis Yomim Imo. King Gabe B'nei Tura Milosim B'Shmini. Ashken Zeo de Parach Abaye. This is Abaye's question. There is a Shon Yochiko. What's Lomit Dinid B'Shum Hachas Hard B'Yom Shmini. Shtem Yisrael Bilvad Nismai Kol Hasheni Motmei Aleida. He says, I could understand that for Jewish people there's a requirement that there be tuma for the mother in order to have the din of the 8th day. But there's the old parsha of Mila, meaning there's two parshas of Mila. There's the new parsha post Matan Torah that says only when the mother has tuma, then her son has a din 8th day. That's the new parsha. But what about the old parsha? There's all these other people are no worse than other descendants of Avram. The Sham Africa of the Animal to me later Nimo Dafkul Shmon of Azem. Mishani Nit in the Torah is Kachel Lachri. Was show me a lake of Din Shmini Kim Bishimo to me later. That's the answer to the Gemara. No. The Jewish people don't have also the other old Parsha of Ram. They only have the new Parsha of Moshe Rabbeinu. They only have the Halacha Yisrael that when the mother is Tamei Leda, then there's a din of Shmini. Asher the Visa near the Zel Beer Vesugya, the Porasham. Aini Vimar Yotzid of the Mishash Rebas. So we had the question that the Moraim discussed, what's the din for these cases of somebody who's born cesarean section and also someone who has two Erebas, then one says Mechal Shabbos, the other says not. Everybody agrees there's a din 8th day here. Why does the Gemara say there's a difference? And everybody agrees that there's an 8th day. How does the Gemara know this? Says, how can this be? We have the pasuk says 8th day in Parshas Tazria, and it says it in context of Tumah, so you should always need Tumah. How can you separate the two? Yom Hashmini Elo, in Cain, make a taste in the Chalik B'nei. Why does the Gemara say it's so easy to separate these two issues? In the Havi, Nachin, the Fiyam Avur, Nicha. The Mira Hata Mila B'Shmini Docha Shabbos, that which Mila on the 8th day is Docha Shabbos. Dafka Basar Shmini Shebekrav Yom Hashmini Yimol Shnemer Rak Yisrael. That's only in Parshas Tazria, the special pasuk by Klal Yisrael. Mashkin B'Dim Mila B'Shmini Shnemer Lavram B'Kod Ben Shmonis Yomim, the old parsha in Bereishis Hahilo Dacha Shabbos. That parsha is not Docha Shabbos. B'nei Dor Yochicho Dechlal Bazar Azuv Ein Milas Docha Shabbos. Now be the halacha always by B'nei Keturah that they will have Mila on the 8th day, but they will not have a din D'chiyah Shabbos, and you won't do it on Shabbos. Zed Gemara, that can lo pli yelach halav as a Shabbos. Mishum darshina kol sheina b'chlal v'talma eina b'chlal b'yom hashmini. The pasuk in Vayikra. The latest b'yasar Shmini Amar Yisrael doesn't have the special 8th day of Yisrael. B'kol makom the Shmini vadim alinamei. But you do get the 8th day of Mila. Why? The old 8th day pasuk from Chumash Bereishis. You're not worse than a day through. Shmami don't mean in the Torah and it's a kasha on the teretz. So you see, you don't go back to the rule of nischat shel No, it always goes together. Katayim the Ravasi nischat shel the kol sheni l'tmei later pokamine din shmini legamri. Ravasi says, but and only for Jewish people. If the mother has a tumas leda, then you have a din shmini. Zehuda Maisi Katsnoi, the Pliger Abon Rabbi Chama, Be'eni Mol Tamei Lady, Noig Bodin Shmini, Amar Avronim Inlo. So that's a Machlos Rabban Rabbi Chama. Whether you go back to the old pasuk of Shmini that it says by Avram for a Jewish person that his mother is not Tamei Lady. Yizere Miyushav Hatev Das and Rambam. Shkosov Yotzi Davon Bili by a Shalot Tov Le'imo, Shani Nolam Shorin Dochen as a Shabbos. That's why the Rambam Paskins, we have these cases where the din is you have a meal on the 8th day, but you don't have a din to do it on Shabbos. The posik kabaye. He's passing like a baye. The Lord mean in the Torah is chachalacha, not the teretz. He's passing like the Amanda Amr that says there is a shom yochichu. But Josh the kol shein b'chlal, the tomein b'chlal b'yom shmini yimo who rak lafkui min din shmini Amr Yisrael. This which you need tumas layers for the special din by Klal Yisrael. V'inachanami don't by din shmini nikra the ben shmos yomin. But you do have, according to Abaye, the old halacha of the 8th day from Avram Avinu, Shnemer Avram. Okay, no dochi Shabbos, and that din is not dochi Shabbos. Commotion is near it. The Tchiyah Shabbos totally right, but her Shmini Shnemerli Yisrael the Krod Yom Shmini, because the din of pushing of Shabbos, the Gemara says in the pasuk the Yom Shmini Afilu b'Shabbos, and that pasuk is in Parshas Tazria and Chumash Vayikra. That's a Raiva compares Rishon Shkosam. The other Dorsh Shon Yichel Otzim Mizem Mucha Deloshin Klal Af Smuchem. Avenach Nami Dolom Chalkin Klal Ben Azor Shmini Shnemer Avram Azor Shmini Shnishot Moshe Dvei Chad Dinahu. Valkein Tzriel Dolom Din Shmini V'Tchiyah Shabbos Haba Atalia. So it comes out like this, that the Ravid learns there's one Parsha Mila. It happens to be said twice in the Torah, once in Bereshis and once in Vayikra. And in Vayikra we learn the rules. And the rules are either you hold or you don't hold of the drasha that says you have to have Tumas Leda in order to have the din of Mila B'Shmini and also of Tchiyah Shabbos. And they have to stay together. If it's 8th day, it's always against Shabbos. That's how the Ravid learns. But the Rambam takes the other way. And the Rambam learns, no, you have two Parshias. You always have two possibilities. You have the Parsha agrees in how to learn Vayikra, like the Ravid does. But he says you always have the old Parsha by Avram Avinu. Now, by the Parsha by Avram Avinu says explicitly 8th day. What about Shabbos by the Parsha of Avram Avinu? First, the Gemara never says from the Pasuk Ben Shemonos Yamim, but the Pasuk does say in Bereshis, say it pushes off Shabbos. The Gemara never says that. Always quotes the pasuk in Vayikra, V'yom Hashmini, slightly different language. Always quoting the pasuk in Vayikra to say push off Shabbos. And also, we said before, B'nei Torah, they don't have Shabbos. They do have Mila. That's one example, the Rambam's example. Also, really, if you look carefully in the Torah, there is no Shabbos there. There's no Shabbos in Chumash Bereshis. In Chumash Bereshis, the Kodesh Baruch keeps Shabbos. He creates the world in 6 days and rests on the 7th day. Whatever that means, that's what the source for Shabbos. But to have to keep Shabbos, you don't find that. There's no pasuk in Chumash Bereshis says you have to keep Shabbos. Avram Avinu doesn't have a pasuk he has to keep Shabbos. Maybe he chooses to keep Shabbos because he chooses to do the mitzvahs that later Klal Yisrael is going to do, but he doesn't have to. So his mitzvah that he has to do a Mila, because Baruch gives him mitzvah Mila. Avram, you must do Mila. That pasuk doesn't have a din to push off Shabbos because there is no Shabbos there. So it can't be that Mila pushes off Shabbos. Later, when do we get Shabbos? Later we get Shabbos in Mara Nistavla Shabbos. Chazal tell us in Parshas Yisro it says explicitly about Shabbos. So by the time we get to Tazria, then we already know about Shabbos. Then we know there is Shabbos, and then we say B'yom Hashmini Afil b'Shabbos to push off Shabbos. But the pasuk by Avram, there's no reason to say that pasuk pushes off Shabbos because there is no Shabbos to push off at that time. So that's part of Doris Yochichu, Doris Rishoni Yochichu that Abaye says that Reb Chaim wants to learn. That's how the Rambam's paskening, that there is no Shabbos in that parsha, and so therefore that Ben Shmoni is Yomim is not going to push off Shabbos. You're not allowed to do it on Shabbos if you have a mitzvah Shabbos. Avram, Yitzchak, Eliezer, Yishmael, they don't have a mitzvah Shabbos. B'nei Keturah, they don't have a mitzvah Shabbos. So they could do it on Shabbos also because they don't have the mitzvah at all. But it's not a din dechiyah. It's not the din Mila pushes off the Shabbos. To have that din, that the din dechiyah, that Mila pushes off Shabbos, is but only when you have it Tziviyah Shabbos. It's only true by the second parsha, the later parsha by Tazri. In fact, as the Gemara always says, that pasuk B'yom Hashmini Afila b'Shabbos. That's where we learn. So the pasuk by Yisrael, the pasuk that's limited to Klal Yisrael, the pasuk in Chumash Vayikra, that tells us that Mila is Docha Shabbos. Before that, we don't have such a thing, and Mila is not Docha Shabbos. So if your tzivui comes from the first parsha and parsha Bereshis, it can't push off Shabbos because there's no mitzvah of Shabbos. If your tzivui comes from Vayikra, where there is a mitzvah Shabbos in the background, then there's a special drasha b'yom hashmini afil b'Shabbos. Then Mila does push off Shabbos, so it's after the Mila Yisrael. After Mila, that's repeated in Chumash Vayikra to Moshe Rabbeinu after the Torah is given. That's the one that has the power to push off Shabbos. That's where the drush is. That's where Shabbos is, and that's why we see Mila on the eighth day pushes off Shabbos.
Hey, very nice.